CEO used her as a substitute for lover, until he learned she bought a cemetery plot. He's gone mad. She was the kind of girl people forgot existed. Not because she wasn't beautiful, she was, but because she moved like a whisper in a world full of noise. The type of girl who held her pain behind a polite smile, who carried heartbreak like a secret, and who loved with a softness the world never learned to appreciate. Her name was Lena, the girl who did everything quietly, walked quietly, worked quietly, cried quietly, and loved quietly. Especially him, the CEO. Damien Hale. Cold. Controlled. Carved from stone. The kind of man whose very footsteps made boardrooms freeze. A man who believed emotions were weaknesses, and trust was a currency he could never afford. But he needed someone who could replace the ghost of a woman he once loved and lost. And Lena, with her calm voice, gentle eyes, and almost identical silhouette, became his perfect substitute. He never said it out loud. He didn't have to. She knew. Every time he looked at her, but saw someone else. Every time he called her into his office late at night. Not for work, but because silence reminded him of the woman who abandoned him forever. He never touched Lena with love. Only with habit. He never held her to cherish her. Only to fill a void. He never kissed her name. Only the memory behind it. But she stayed. Because loving him was the only thing she didn't do quietly. She loved him loudly. In her heart. Where no one could hear her breaking. Every time he traced her face and whispered a name that wasn't hers. She died a little. But she still brewed his morning tea with steady hands. Still placed his suits ready before dawn. Still fixed his tie before every meeting. Still shielded him from scandals, stress, and loneliness. She was his warmth in the shadows. His calm in the chaos. His invisible shield. And he never noticed. He didn't notice the way her fingers trembled sometimes when she picked up files. He didn't notice the way her shoulders drooped after long nights. He didn't notice how her smile grew weaker each passing day. He didn't notice, because he never cared to look, until one night changed everything. It was raining. Hard. Violent winds slamming against the city, as if the sky was grieving something. Damien stepped out of a black car with one intention, to confront Lena about her sudden leave request. A leave request she never explained. A leave request she submitted with shaking hands. He followed her through the storm, water soaking his $1,000 coat. His jaw clenched. His mind irritated. He thought she was being dramatic. Avoiding him. Tired of being used. But when he watched her from afar, entering a dim, forgotten building on the outskirts of the city, his irritation turned into confusion. Then confusion turned into disbelief. It wasn't a hotel. Not a clinic. Not a friend's home. It was a cemetery office. He stood frozen under the rain, his breath turning sharp, cold, uneven. Lena stepped inside the office with her wet hair plastered to her face, carrying a folder close to her chest as if protecting something fragile. Damien felt something unfamiliar twist inside him. Something uncomfortable. Something dangerous. Something he never expected to feel for her. Concern. His heartbeat quickened. He stepped closer. Close enough to hear her voice through the cracked window. "I'm here to complete the purchase." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. The old clerk nodded. "You've already paid in full. We just need your signature for the burial plot." Damien felt the ground vanish beneath him. Burial plot? He leaned forward, rain dripping from his lashes, trying to hear more. "For yourself?" the clerk asked softly. Lena nodded. "Yes." That single word almost stopped Damien's heart. She wasn't here for someone else. She was here to buy her own grave.
Why?
Why would a girl like her, gentle, quiet, patient, be preparing her own death? The clerk continued. "You're very young, miss. Are you sure about this?" She gave a small smile. A smile so heartbreakingly calm it made the storm feel silent. "I just don't want to be a burden to anyone when the time comes. No one will miss me, so it's better to arrange everything early." "No one will miss me." Damien's stomach dropped. Those words stabbed him deeper than any insult ever could. No one, not even him? He felt breathless. A foreign, sharp fear slicing through his composure. For years, he thought she was replaceable. For months, he believed she was just a substitute. For weeks, he assumed she would always stay. But in that moment, watching her sign her own burial papers with trembling fingers, Damien Hale, the cold CEO who felt nothing, realized he was about to lose the only person who had ever stayed beside him. And he went absolutely mad. CEO used her as a substitute until he learned she bought a cemetery plot. The storm was still raging when Lena stepped back out of the cemetery office, her small frame shivering under the cold rain. She held a thin envelope, the one containing her burial documents, tucked tightly against her chest as if it were something precious. Something final. Damien watched her from the shadows, his heart pounding in a way he didn't recognize. He was used to controlling every part of his life. His company, his emotions, his image, his empire. But right now, he couldn't control a single breath. The moment she walked away from the office, the CEO, who had never followed anyone in his life, followed her. Not out of curiosity, not out of suspicion, but out of a fear so raw it made his chest hurt. Lena walked slowly, carefully, as if every step weighed 1,000 memories. Her shoulders slumped, her breaths uneven, her eyes distant. He wanted to yell, wanted to demand answers, wanted to shake her and ask, "Why? Why would you plan your own grave?" But he couldn't bring himself to speak. Because for the first time, Damien Hale felt unworthy of answers. He kept watching, silent, unseen. And that's when he saw it. She stumbled. Just a small misstep. Just a faint shake of her knees. But enough to make his stomach twist. She grabbed the side of a wall, breathing heavily, pressing her chest as if trying to stop a pain that had been burning there for too long. Damien took a step forward instinctively, but she steadied herself and continued walking. He froze. He didn't know she was sick. He didn't know she'd been fainting. He didn't know she skipped meals to pay hospital bills. He didn't know she worked overtime not for ambition but for survival. He didn't know because he never tried to know. And the truth pierced him harder than the rain. She wasn't buying a grave because she wanted to die. She was buying it because she believed no one would care enough to handle it when she did. And that was his fault. His chest tightened painfully, a feeling he didn't allow himself to feel for anyone. He kept following her until she entered the bus stand. Not a taxi. Not a private car. A bus. The girl he made stay late at the office took the last bus home every night. He swallowed hard. How blind had he been? How much had she hidden? How much had he ignored? The bus was empty, except for her. She sat on the last seat, rested her head on the cold glass, and closed her eyes. Not to sleep, but to endure. Her hand pressed over her heart again. Her breathing became slow, strained. Her lips pale. Damien felt something inside him unravel. The bus began moving. He rushed to his car. "Follow that bus," he ordered his driver harshly. The driver blinked, confused. "Yes, sir." And they followed her, just like he should have done long ago. Through the dark roads, past empty streets, over puddles and storm-filled intersections. Every time the bus shook, she trembled slightly. Every time it stopped, she opened her eyes briefly, as if checking whether she was still conscious. Every part of him screamed to run to her, to help her, to hold her, to wipe the rain and exhaustion from her face. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he understood the truth he'd been too arrogant to see. When the bus finally stopped near her small, dimly lit street, she stepped down carefully. He watched her walk toward a tiny apartment building that looked older than her pain. The CEO of Hale Industries, a man worth billions, watched the woman he used as a substitute climb 4 flights of stairs alone, coughing silently into her sleeve. When she disappeared behind the rusted door of her apartment, the world seemed to pause. Damien didn't move for a long time. He stood in the rain, staring at that door, feeling something he had never felt. Regret. Fear. and a possessive panic burning through him. He turned to his driver. "Find out everything about her," he said, voice low and shaking. "Her address, medical records, expenses, work hours, emergency contacts, everything." The driver didn't dare question him. He'd never seen the CEO look like this. Not even when investors threatened his company. Not even when his ex-fiancée left him broken. This was different. This wasn't business. This wasn't anger. This wasn't duty. This was personal. When Damien got back into his car, he noticed something on the seat. Her burial envelope. She must have dropped it in the rain, and he picked it up without realizing. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was her name, her birth date, and the empty death date. Next to it was a handwritten note from her. Small, soft, shattering. "I don't want to trouble anyone when I'm gone. Please keep everything simple." Something inside Damien snapped. Gone? Gone where? Gone when? Who gave her the right to disappear from a world he still needed her in? The cold CEO who felt nothing. Felt everything. Rage. Fear. Desperation. A violent need to protect her. He slammed the envelope shut, breathing harshly. "No," he whispered to the storm outside. "She's not leaving me. Not like this. Not ever." And without another second of hesitation, he stepped out of the car and marched toward her apartment. Tonight, he would learn everything she'd been hiding, even if he had to tear the truth out of the walls. CEO used her as a substitute, until he learned she bought a cemetery plot. The hallway outside her apartment smelled of damp wood and old paint. Dim lights flickered overhead, casting long, trembling shadows across cracked walls. Damien Hale had never stepped into a place like this. He lived in penthouses, marble floors, silent elevators. He commanded buildings with glass ceilings and men with iron spines. But now he stood in front of Lena's rusted apartment door. A door with peeling paint, a broken handle, and a tiny heart sticker fading at the corner. A door behind which she lived her quiet, lonely life. A life he never bothered to understand. His chest rose and fell heavily, rain dripping from his hair as he lifted his hand to knock. But just then, he heard something inside. A cough. Deep, heavy, painful. A cough that didn't belong to a healthy woman. He froze. Another cough followed, sharper, harsher, as if it tore through her lungs. He heard the thud of something falling. A cup? A book? Her breath? He didn't knock. He shoved the door open. The lock snapped under his strength, swinging the door wide with a bang. Inside, the apartment was small. Too small. Too cold. A single lamp flickered. Half-eaten food sat untouched on a table. A thin blanket lay on a worn-out sofa. And there she was. Lena stood near the kitchen, gripping the countertop with one weak hand, coughing violently into her other palm. Her shoulders trembled, her knees wobbling, her chest rising fast and painful. Damien's heart cracked. She didn't even notice him enter. She was too busy trying not to collapse. Only when she finally steadied herself and lifted her head did she see him, standing there, furious, terrified, drenched, uninvited. Her eyes widened. "Damien?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. Why are you?" She didn't finish. Her breath caught midway. He stepped toward her slowly, every movement heavy with shock and something darker. "What's happening to you?" he demanded, voice low and shaking. "What are you hiding from me?" She swallowed hard and looked away. "It's late," she whispered. "You shouldn't be here. Please go." He didn't move. "You bought a cemetery plot." She froze. Her fingers clenched the counter. Her eyes glistened, not with fear, not with guilt, with acceptance. As if she knew this moment would come. As if she expected it. But her silence cracked him open. Damien stepped closer, his voice rising. "Why? Why would you plan your death? Are you sick? Are you in danger? Are you?" His voice broke. "Are you dying?" Lena shut her eyes tightly. A tear slipped down her cheek. "Please don't ask me that. Answer me," he shouted, the panic he'd been holding back finally exploding. "Tell me the truth." She turned her back to him, hiding her trembling body. "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "You shouldn't care." He felt that like a punch. Shouldn't care? The woman he followed through a storm, the woman whose grave he held in his hands, the woman who had been quietly breaking beside him for months. He wasn't supposed to care? A bitter laugh escaped him. Harsh, painful, strangled. "Lena," he said, voice shaking, "I haven't been able to breathe since I saw those papers." She didn't turn around. He closed the distance between them in 3 steps and grabbed her wrist, pulling her gently but firmly to face him. Her face was pale, her lips colorless, her eyes tired and hollow. He felt rage. Not at her. At himself. "Tell me what's wrong," he begged. "I'm not leaving until you do." She finally met his eyes, and the weight in them nearly brought him to his knees. "I didn't want to burden anyone," she said softly. "I thought I could handle it alone." "Handle what?" he demanded. She didn't answer. He grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. "Lena, look at me."
She did.
And then, the truth slipped out in a broken whisper. "My mother died from a hereditary heart condition. The doctors say I have the same symptoms." Her voice trembled. The fainting, the chest pain, the coughing blood, the fatigue. It's all happening again. Just like her. Damien felt the world tilt. Heart condition. Hereditary. Terminal. He felt his pulse crash in his ears. "You didn't tell me?" he whispered. She shook her head. "You were already hurting," she said softly. "From losing her. From your past. I didn't want to become another burden you resented. I didn't want you to feel trapped with me just because I'm dying." He stared at her in disbelief. "You think I would resent you?" he asked, voice shaking. She nodded weakly. "You used me as a substitute," she said gently. "You never loved me. And I wasn't supposed to love you. So, I didn't want to make you feel guilty." Damien's vision blurred with emotion he couldn't process. Substitute.
Guilty.
Burden. Every word felt like claws ripping through him. He grabbed her face with trembling hands. "You were never a burden," he whispered fiercely. "And you were never a substitute. Never." She swallowed hard. "You only wanted me because I look like her." Those words shattered him. "No," he said, shaking his head violently. "Maybe in the beginning, maybe I was lost. But you." His voice broke. "You're the only one who stayed. The only one who sees me. The only one I—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Because the truth terrified him. Because the truth was too real now. Because the truth was her. She pulled away gently. "You shouldn't say things you don't mean, Damien." He grabbed her wrist again. "I mean every damn word." She shook her head. "Please," she whispered. "I don't want hope. I don't want you to pity me. I just want peace. I just want acceptance." Damien stepped closer, his breath trembling. "And what about what I want?" Her eyes widened slightly. "What do you want?" He stared at her for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like a lifetime. "I want you alive," he whispered. "I want you with me." He leaned in, voice breaking. "You hear me? I want you." Her breath shattered into a sob. And Damien Hale realized. He wasn't just afraid of losing her. He was already in love with her. CEO used her as a substitute, until he learned she bought a cemetery plot. The moment Lena's quiet sob broke the silence, something inside Damien Hale snapped. Cleanly, loudly, irreversibly. He wasn't the cold CEO anymore. He wasn't the man who hid behind old wounds and past ghosts. He wasn't the man who used her softness to bandage someone else's memory. Not tonight. Not after learning she'd been dying quietly while he lived loudly. Not after hearing the words that nearly destroyed him. "I didn't want to trouble anyone when I'm gone."
Gone.
He couldn't breathe at the thought. His chest heaved as he reached out and pulled her into his arms. Not the way he used to, half-hearted, distracted, numbing himself with her presence.
No.
This time he held her with a desperation that frightened even him. A grip that said he wasn't letting her slip away. A fear that tasted like heartbreak. Lena stiffened, shocked, as if she couldn't understand why the coldest man she knew was trembling against her. "Damien," she whispered, pushing lightly against his chest. You don't have to. I do, he growled softly into her hair. I do. Don't tell me what I feel. His voice cracked, something raw choking every word. She was silent. She didn't believe him. She thought he was reacting from guilt, from shock, from misplaced protectiveness. But she didn't know. Not yet. That somewhere between the stolen moments, the quiet nights, the accidental glances, he had already fallen.
Slowly.
Silently.
Stupidly.
He pulled back just enough to cup her face. Her cheeks were wet. Her eyes shimmering. Her lips trembling. You think I pity you, he whispered. You think I'm here because of obligation? She lowered her gaze. You're overwhelmed. Anyone would be.
No.
His voice was sharp. Final. Breaking apart. I'm overwhelmed because I almost lost you without even knowing I loved you. Her breath froze. Her eyes widened. Not with joy. Not with disbelief. With pain. Don't say that, she murmured, shaking her head. It's not fair. He held her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Nothing about this is fair. A storm passed behind his gaze. Fear, regret, anger, longing. All this time, he said softly, I thought you would always stay. His throat tightened. That you were safe. That you would be there when I finally found the courage to let you in. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You never needed me, she whispered. His jaw clenched. I need you so much it terrifies me. She looked away again. Damien, you don't understand. I'm sick. I'm getting worse. I might not. Don't. His voice cracked like glass. Don't finish that sentence. Why, she whispered. It's the truth. I don't care about the truth. His hands tightened on her arms. I care about you. And I'm not letting you give up on yourself. Her breath faltered. Her whisper was barely a sound. Why now? He exhaled slowly, painfully. Because tonight I realized something. He touched her heart gently. You've been dying a little every day right in front of me. His own voice trembled. And I never saw it. I was too afraid. Too blind. Too selfish. The guilt in his eyes was suffocating. He looked at her as if she were the most fragile, precious thing he had ever touched. Lena, he whispered, I don't want to replace someone else with you. His breath broke. I want you. She closed her eyes tightly. You don't know what you're saying. I do. He stepped closer, forehead touching hers. I'm done lying to myself. And I'm done letting you suffer alone. Her fingers shook as she gripped his shirt. What if there's no cure? She whispered. What if I only have months?
Weeks?
What then, Damien?
Will you still say the same thing?
He didn't flinch. I'll say it every day, he breathed, until you believe I mean it. Until you fight with me. Until you stay. Her voice cracked. You won't survive losing me. He grabbed her waist, pulling her into him like he needed her to breathe. I won't, he said honestly. And that's exactly why I will fight with everything I have to keep you alive. The rawness of his confession broke her. She began to cry. Really cry? For the first time in years. She buried her face in his chest, shaking with the pain she had carried alone, the fear she had swallowed in silence, the hopelessness she had accepted as fate. And Damien held her. Not as a substitute. Not as a habit. Not as a shadow of someone else. He held her like a man drowning clings to the only piece of life left. Lena. His voice was hoarse, almost pleading. Let me love you.
Please.
Let me try. Let me be there. Let me stay. Her sobs quieted. Her hands slid up his chest. Her face lifted slowly. Her eyes, shiny, red, exhausted, searched his. You don't have to love me, she whispered. He brushed a tear from her cheek. No, he said softly. I don't have to. His lips came closer. But I do. Her breath trembled. And, in that moment, in that small, shabby apartment, the cold CEO finally fell to his knees internally, shattered and changed forever. Because loving her was no longer a choice. It was survival. He ran through the hospital corridors like a madman, because if she died today, the guilt would bury him alive. He once used her as a substitute, but now he begged fate to give him one more chance to love her for real. A single phone call shattered him. Mr. CEO, she collapsed inside the cemetery grounds. He had spent years ignoring her tears. Now he prayed to trade his life for hers. She was done loving him, done waiting, done hurting. But destiny wasn't done with them yet. Section 5, full 800 words. The call came during a board meeting, clean, cold, and emotionless. Yet the words detonated inside his chest like a bomb. Mr. Adrian, Miss Ella has collapsed. We found her unconscious beside a freshly purchased grave. The entire boardroom froze. Adrian didn't. He shot to his feet, chair crashing to the marble floor, documents scattering like helpless birds around him. His heartbeat thundered so violently that his assistant had to shout twice to get his attention. "Sir, your car." "I don't need the damn car," he barked, sprinting toward the elevator as if every second was life slipping away. He had spent years walking away from Ella. Now he couldn't reach her fast enough. Rain hammered the city when he stumbled into the hospital lobby, soaked, trembling, eyes wild. People moved aside instinctively. This wasn't the calm, icy CEO they knew. This was a man begging the universe for mercy. "Where is she?" His voice cracked, raw with terror. The nurse hesitated. Everyone feared the CEO's wrath, but when she met his eyes, she realized it wasn't anger. It was devastation. "Room 306, but sir, she hasn't woken up yet." His breath shattered. He didn't wait for permission. He ran. She looked impossibly small on the hospital bed. Ella, the woman he had hurt the most, the woman who loved him the deepest, the woman he once used as a ghost of another, the woman he now could not imagine living without. Her hair spread across the pillow like spilled ink. Her lips were pale. Her fingers were cold. Adrian reached for her hand and froze. Her palm held a small folded receipt. A cemetery purchase.
A grave. Her grave.
His world turned silent. "No, no, no, no," his whisper broke, the sound twisting into a choked sob. "Ella, why would you do this? Why didn't you tell me you were hurting like this?" He had spent so long refusing to see her pain, because if he acknowledged it, he'd have to face the monster he had become. He brushed the hair from her forehead, his chest splitting open. "You can't leave," he whispered. "You can't leave me."
Not now.
Not when he finally understood everything. Not when he realized she had never been a substitute. She had been the cure for the emptiness he carried. 5 hours passed.
She didn't wake.
Doctors came and went, offering quiet updates, dehydration, emotional burnout, exhaustion, chronic stress. Words that stabbed him like knives because every one of them existed in her life. Because of him. He sat by her bedside, gripping her limp hand like it was the only thread holding him to the earth. "I never deserved you," he whispered with a trembling breath. "But I swear, Ella, if you wake up, I will spend every day earning the right to stay beside you." Outside the window, the storm softened. Inside the room, his heart remained in ruins. He lifted her hand to his forehead, his voice breaking apart. "I'm in love with you." The confession spilled out painfully, years late, miles short. "Not with her. Not with the woman I told you to pretend to be. Not with the memory I forced on you." Tears slipped down his cheeks, hot and heavy. "I'm in love with you, Ella. You. Only you." A tiny movement answered him. Her fingers twitched. He froze. "Ella?" His voice splintered with hope and fear. Slowly, painfully, her eyelashes fluttered. Then her eyes opened, dim, tired, wounded. For a moment, she didn't speak. She just stared at him, as if she was trying to figure out whether this was a dream or another heartbreak waiting to happen. Finally, her lips parted. "Why are you here, Adrian?" Her voice was thin but steady, a blade sheathed in calm. He leaned forward, trembling. "Because I can't lose you." She turned her face away. "You already did." The words sliced deeper than any knife. He bowed his head.
No.
"Not again. Not this time. Let me make it right, Ella. I swear I'll give up everything. My position, my company, my life. if that's what it takes to give you back the peace I stole. Her eyes flickered. For a moment, pain and something softer mixed in them. But then, you didn't come for me before. Why now? Because he didn't understand then. Because he was a coward. Because he thought keeping her at arm's length would protect them both. Because he never knew how deeply he loved her until he saw her preparing for her own death. He swallowed, voice breaking. Because now I know what losing you really means. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. You don't get to decide anymore, she whispered. Not after everything. And for the first time in his life, the CEO who controlled empires realized he controlled nothing at all. Not fate. Not forgiveness. Not her heart. Not anymore. But he wasn't giving up. He tightened his grip on her hand, not possessively, but pleadingly. Then give me a chance to learn, Ella. One chance. I'll earn every heartbeat you give me. She looked at him for a long, silent moment.
Broken.
Conflicted. Afraid to believe him. He didn't push. He just stayed there holding on. Because this time, he wasn't letting her fall alone. Not ever again.